outside.
Hey everybody,
Hello,
I'm Travis Vengroff,
and I'm Caitlin Statz, and we are.
Fool and Scholar Productions.
Yes, we are. I was gonna say we're outside.
Oh, well, that's fine too. We are outside. It's a nice gloomy day in Portland. The sky is
Appropriately so.
appropriately covered in cloud cover, and the birds and ravens are out with us today. Hey, Krista.
Hi, Krista. So thank you guys so much for inviting us on to do this live Q&A for the No Sleep podcast group. We are huge fans of No Sleep. It was actually the first podcast I got Travis to ever listen to.
It is my first podcast, and it is always first in my heart.
Oh, there's one of those big ravens.
You don't suppose they'll attack us, do you?
No.
Okay.
Why would they?
I
We
don't
have
know.
no food.
That's true. We don't have any food.
And we have a big dog next to us. So, but yeah, you can, of course, put questions in the comment section and we will try to get to them. I don't think they'll be. Oh, good. It's great. Cool. We're actually just outside of our house. You can see our grapevines in the back. And our house is currently under construction, so it's too loud to be in there currently. But we are happy to talk about horror and the white vaults and the experiences we've had with No Sleep, and pretty much any question we will reserve judgment on whether or not a question is appropriate. But
Yeah, we'll give our best. And to start really
There's our
quickly,
dog.
that's just the dog tail at this point. I'd like to start this off though by saying again a huge thanks to the No Sleep podcast as our dog grabs the squeaky toy.
That's the danger of doing a live Q&A outside.
Okay, well, it's just got more exciting. We planned for everything except squeaky toys, but our professionalism goes right out the window.
We apologize.
But again, I wanted to say a quick thank you again to the No Sleep podcast, David Cummings, and
Yeah,
us-
that's our pupper.
but seriously, it's how we started podcasting. We had early support with them, and they've always inspired and raised the water and helped smaller podcasts like us.
And we're
get
so
started.
glad for not only the podcast's help and the people individually, but we're so glad for having made great friends through it.
Yes.
We now have great friends like David and Peter, and play D&D and chat, and just they're such wonderful people, and we're really happy. Oh wait, no, they're very spooky people.
They are very spooky people. They're terrifying, but they're terrifyingly kind,
Yes.
and they're really out for a better horror community all the time.
Very just wonderful. So I don't know if we should start on a question. Or
Yeah,
if
we should probably
just keep saying.
No, I think
"Thank you,
we've
thank
got
you,
a couple questions
thank
that
you."
people had already asked, so we should start with those. I think
Wait, Krista
joined again.
joined again.
Is that a
How many
doppelganger?
Kristas are there?
We will find out, perhaps. Hey, you guys sent teeth, so who is spooky?
So I guess
That's
that would
true.
be us.
We did
the
send
spooky?
we did send our cast members little boxes filled with teeth
Yes, we did.
because
did.
that's a thing. A couple of them, and they're
Should we
fun.
clarify what kind of teeth, or should we leave it vague?
Vague is kind of good.
Vague is
I
good?
think
Okay, well,
we
we'll
put them
say
in little
vague.
boxes, little stone boxes. That's kind of important. It's our theme, teeth.
We have a theme.
Yeah.
That's our theme. Theme is teeth.
Our theme is teeth. One of the questions now from Rob Weeks, hey Rob, is actual teeth. Well, I'm not
Are
sure.
we leaving it vague?
You'll have to find out by asking one of them. I don't remember. I'll just say that.
You lie.
I will lie temporarily. But we did find actual skeletons in our house, but they were rat skeletons.
We did.
And they
had
sound
tiny teeth.
They did have tiny teeth, but they sound really good when we put them onto like different textures.
Ew, you touched them?
Of course, that's how I got the teeth sounds for episode 1 for season 2. Spoilers, there's teeth. But yes, there's going to be a lot of teeth in our episodes, and I've got actual teeth now to make the sounds for the teeth, and it's rat bones. So that's kind of fun. But what do we have
All right,
on the
actual
question list? We'll start.
Right.
We do have
From
one.
Gemma Luis, we have, how do you guys feel now that the show is moving into season 2?
Season 2.
This is actually 3 questions, so
So-
we're going to break it into pieces. Thank you, very loud crow.
Bite-sized sections. It'll probably like herald every time there's a question.
So how do you guys feel, how do we feel moving into season 2? Excited.
Quite excited.
Excited. As the writer, the fact that people liked the story I've created and want to hear more and are looking forward to it just fills me with this strange feeling of glee that is unaccustomed in my life. So that's been exciting. I cannot wait to see how people react to season 2 and how they react to where it is that the show is going, because there are some twists and turns along the way. So
For me, season 2 is basically the second half of like your horror movie, and I'm really excited to see like all the setup is now. We know who the characters are. Now let's get exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to be excited, and to see how all of you handle some of the changes that will be taking place without spoiling anything. Also, it's a lot more sound heavy, sound effects heavy. So it was good that I had season 1 to kind of brush up my skills on what Svalbard is supposed to sound like. So
you did great.
thank you.
You
Thank
did
you.
great.
Hopefully
So
we'll.
the second part of her
continue.
question, do you have plans for any more podcasts?
Oh gosh,
Oh gosh.
so many. We have a lot of podcasts currently planned. We have a D&D podcast called Dark Dice, where we play Dungeons and Dragons in a horror theme with
With the cast of the White Vault.
the cast of
So
the
that
White
has
Vault
David playing his first ever
D&D game.
D&D game. David Alt, not David Cummings.
Yes, clarify, important.
Yeah. And it has,
We also have our good friend. We also have our good friend Peter Lewis with us,
Yep.
joining us, Graham Kasner, and actually the dog does make an appearance here and there.
we edit him out.
We had enough though.
Don't
And
eat the grass.
There are a few other people as well. Pretty much everyone but Rosa De La Torre joins us in playing D&D, and it's a lot of fun. And there's horror and teeth as well in that one.
We
do like
also,
teeth.
for actual audio dramas, we are working on several different things right now. We have a lot of things in the back burner.
Back burner or background, both.
In the back burner, or on the back burner, and we have to get to a certain point where we feel comfortable putting that much more time and energy in the creation of multiple shows. So we already do the Liberty podcast, and we already do the White Vault. I pretty much work full time on podcasting at this point, but it's not just writing. I do a lot of the back end, like design and advertising and social media, and you try to make it so serious. And then there's you wrestling.
There's only
our
so much you
dog.
can do with the dog, the actual dog here, but we can't let him inside because there's some chemicals. So he's out here with us. We also have another season at some point of Tales from the Tower. We have a little like one-off horror stories, kind of like No Sleep.
I'm actually really excited for some of the stories that I've written for the next season of Tales from the Tower, because they are, I'm proud of some of them. Very proud.
I'm equally proud. I think it's one of the scariest things you've ever written.
Yay, thank you.
And it's going to be fun. So
Sorry, I'm breaking the mystique of like, oh, horror writers should be scary. I am not a scary person.
she's not typically a scary person, except when she's angry or hungry. You
Or
won't like
hungry.
her when she's hungry.
But hungry and angry kind of overlap.
They
But
do
we do have a
overlap.
lot of plans for a lot more things.
We can't talk about just yet. But
Yeah, we can't really tell what it is we're doing yet, because it all has to do with surprises and timelines.
It's fun to announce things.
Not everything that we are planning is horror, though. We actually have one thing planned that's a bit more fun.
Oh, we can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
So we've got a little children's musical.
We do. It's a fantasy children's musical
about a pig.
about a boar.
About a boar.
Who is a knight of the realm.
The boar knight. And he's played by, like, the actual pig does the.
Yeah, he's played by a pig.
And then he's traveling with like a bard who's gonna probably be someone we all know and love. And it'll be goofy and fun.
Yeah, but that's our non-horror. We also have some horror, some sci-fi, and all that sort of stuff planned, but those are more secretive and under wraps.
For the time being, till we're ready to terrify you.
All right. Third part of Gemma Luis's is, how do you divide up podcasting, writing, editing, duties, etc.? So we are Fool and Scholar Productions. It's us as the base team.
Fool, scholar.
We start with an idea, and we take that idea and we will go on dog walks, which we call our Fool and Scholar meetings.
They're very important.
They are. And we will talk about ideas and flesh them out. And then when I come home, oh my gosh, suddenly there's like,
Well, we didn't realize you could scroll with this
oh my
thing.
God, it scrolls.
We missed all of the comments. You should give the crows a house new present. They will return the favor. Actually, I've been trying to give them marbles. They haven't taken them though.
Don't. Because then when I start planting stuff, they're going to like come back and start pulling up my garden. And...
Such a great podcast. Listened to it 3 times already. Thank you. Love the White Vault. So good.
Thank you.
Bane does that when I talk too much. Puppers are all the same. Hangry is dangerous.
Hangry is dangerous.
Liberty is amazing too. Yay.
Thank you, Sean.
Love the format of multiple views in a common world. Hi, Nady? I think it's Nady.
Mm-hmm.
Nady.
Wave.
You got a wave symbol.
And thank you, Nady, again for saying that. And they like food. They bring you marbles and cash.
Smoking in the
we could
boys'
really
room.
do with some cash. House reno requires. Don't eat the leaf.
So we'll give them cash. We give the crows cash, and they give us cash.
No, we give them food. They bring us shiny things.
Gotcha. Okay. It's like Dark Souls. Okay. Sorry. So the question was, how do you divide up podcasting, writing, editing duties, etc.?
So anything related to the writing is generally me, and then I have some people that I will run by things for editing.
Keep going all the way through.
Run by things for editing, for script editing. Editor will read through it, tell me something is horrible, bad, needs fixing, this is wrong. Like, I have a very nice editor who tears my stuff apart for me because she knows that I can take it.
I kind of am the light editor. I'm just like,
he's too.
I do macro plots. Like, if we have like a story, like a rough story, like, oh well, what if the real villain is the character? It's like, no, okay. So like I'll do like high concept stuff, and
I'll just shoot everything down.
She'll shoot it all down, but we'll eventually get to something that's scary. And you're saying, sorry.
So
your editor.
We'll go through edits. Usually, we'll go through the script 3 or 4 times. By that time, it should be completely done and ready to be sent off to Travis to read through. Travis will send things out to the potential actors, and sometimes we'll have to put out a call, an audition, not addition. And we will sit down outside usually, and we will listen to things, and we will have a board, and we will say, okay, this is our first choice for this character, this is our second choice, and kind of decide who goes where, what's the right voice for
which actors fit in which characters specifically. And if someone, like, because we can't have the same person be everyone in the show, so we'll figure out who we like in which area, and we'll like have like 2 or 3 names attached.
It's all just David Alt doing different characters.
It'll be the like... White Alt. Season 3, the White Alt. Dun,
and voice crack. And by that point, I step back, and until we get to the releasing advertising section at the end, and it all goes over to Travis, who is our sound designer, producer, editor for the digital stuff.
So I'm kind of a jerk. I just sort of send the scripts to the actors. They have got notes in there about like what is happening in each scene. Like there's a note that's called yow, Y-O-W, and it means yelling over wind. There's a couple of spots where we've got like little indications of whispering or what's happening in the scene. So the cast kind of reads through it on their own and records on their own and sends it to me. I compile it together into a scene, basically like a voice cut, and then I'll have a little bit of ambience in the background so I kind of can hear what the room tone's supposed to be like. So if they're outside, they're yelling appropriately. If they're inside, they're not yelling too loudly because they're all in the same room, in theory, even though they're not. They're in different countries. They probably would yell to each other to reach each other, but it wouldn't make it. And then on the, this is the first time I've seen your faces. I had completely different pictures in my head. I hope we are maybe nicer in person. We're probably not, but thank you, Sean.
Much older. Yeah, we're not too old.
Yeah, we're not quite. Not yet. One day we'll be there. With any luck, as long as we're not defeated in combat. After I've got like a rough scene, I'll start adding sound effects. I'll also put out some retakes because it happens on occasion that one person is a little bit too loud or too soft. So I'll say, okay, we need you to re-record your lines, but a little bit more whispery. Here's the scene. And you've got like a rough ambience on top of it. And you can hear the other actors. Could you be more like this? And then we get the retakes, and those fit in pretty quickly. I add sound effects, which takes some time. And then I notch everything. Like I put a note in for everything that has to be recorded manually, because we have some stock sound effects that we use, and then I'll record all the non-stock sound effects at the same time and knock it out that way. And then once it's there, I send it over to mixing. Brandon Strader is an awesome guy who mixes our show, and then he sends us mixes back, usually about 3 hours before the show is due to be released. And then Caitlin and I'll listen to it 2 times because there's sound effects that are off. And then once it's really listenable, I'll get her to listen to it on the final time, and she'll give us some notes.
I'm like, he won't show me the first.
I
won't listen to the first edit because I'm aggravatingly honest about tearing something apart and being.
Well, it's not that she's aggravatingly honest about it. I mean, she is rude, but it's more to do with, like, there are things that I know that need to be fixed, and it is unhelpful to have them repeated to me prior, because then she'll just complain like, I can't hear the scene, the sound effect is too loud, I can't hear the actors.
It's like, I have no idea what they just said, it's too loud.
It is amazing how far the actors are, and yet everything comes together smoothly. I'm sure it's after many takes.
Okay,
actually,
so she's gonna update this.
Oh,
so
okay.
We'll go through this and then we'll do that.
Gotcha.
Okay,
All
so
right,
we can go ahead and do it since you already read it.
Yeah.
Does it take a lot of takes?
No, actually, they give me like 3 takes for every line, so I've got multiple takes to cut together. So we rarely do a lot of retakes. I would say we have maybe, out of an entire script, maybe 6 or 7 lines in the entire script that need to be redone, and that's not with one person, that's collectively over the entire script. It typically is one person's 7 lines or 6 lines, because it's like usually a scene or a set of actions that need to be done slightly different.
I feel like
we do relatively few retakes.
Yeah, the more that we work with these people, the more that they understand our direction, and the more that they understand their character, so they know how their character should sound given the scene, given the prompts that they're given. So at this point, we have just wonderful, wonderful people, and they know what we're looking for, and they know how to create it. They're quality, and we just are so lucky to work with them.
Oh, so to finish the earlier question, so that's sort of the writing, editing duties, mixing, it goes out, and then she does all the PR and starts like promoting it, because we have a lot of visual adverts that go out well in advance.
I spend way too much time.
Like all the time I'm editing, that's
making visual adverts, and then being on social media. Like, I never thought that was going to be part of podcasting.
Being social, how
like,
odd.
Oh, I have to spend like 9 hours on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and Reddit.
But it is a thing, and it is a weird thing. I think that answers the question.
All right. So the next one is from Rebecca Smith.
Don't say last names. We don't say last names.
Well, Smith is like generic last name.
It could be a pseudonym.
Everyone's a Smith.
Okay.
From Rebecca S. And it says, why did you choose the name The White Vault? Okay, so because it's appropriate.
Well, you have to explain. We started off with... Oh.
Because it's appropriate.
Because it's appropriate.
Hi. But you will. Things will be made sense of future. Yes.
I was going to go into the naming process, though. Like how
No.
No? None of it?
No.
Okay. All right. I guess it's because it's appropriate. And that is a good answer. It will make sense.
It will. Okay. Sorry, that was a really like cryptic and not well answered one, but next one is from Krista. Even though it is clear you enjoy making podcasts, what would you say is your least favorite part about it? Or maybe a better way of asking, what are the things that are that you put off doing because they aren't as fun? I hate being on social media.
She is I mean, talking to people's cool. That's the fun part. But like advertising on social media,
shouting into the void and spending a lot of time shouting into the void just does not fly with me.
We also go to conventions, and it's kind of the same thing. It's like, hey, have you heard about this podcast? And you pass them a sticker, and they're like, I might look at your podcast, maybe. And then you have to like sell them on it, and it's kind of the same thing. But there's actually a person, and they might look at it.
Yeah, social media is not as bad now as it was when I first started. So when we first started with the Liberty podcast, and when we first were like before the White Vault ever came out, and I was trying to get people excited for something they'd never heard, I just felt like I felt like I was that annoying salesperson, and that hurts my soul. It hurts my soul to be like, hey guys, you should give it a try. Maybe, come on, yeah, like, give it a try. Like, oh gosh. It's exhausting.
I would say for me, the hardest part for me and the most difficult part is the early mixing phase, because I know what I hear in my head. I know I don't think in like visuals, I think in sound. So I know exactly what it needs to sound like in my head. And then I've like edited it, and then it comes back mixed. And then certain things that I've put in there, like motion sounds or like a door opening, will suddenly disappear because the volume levels are just a little bit off. And it's very stressful for me because I have to like re-edit the scene almost to get the levels where I need them or would like them to be.
Would you like a
And
spider?
Oh, it is a little
Would
spider.
you like a spider?
Actually, no, thank
like a
you.
spider?
I like spiders, but not particularly right now on my face. But just kind of going through that process and making sure that nothing is forgotten and that the sound effects are panned to the right person and attributed. Graham Kasner revs a shotgun, but his voice is on the left side and the shotgun's now on the right side. It just doesn't, you have to make sure it
What
all
are
in the
you
same.
eating?
I don't know. Our dog eats random things. He's a mulcher. But I think that's probably one of the more difficult parts for me. Just emotionally, it's stressful. But
If you have a big yard, you can just get a dog, like a big dog, and they mulch all of your sticks, and then you can just put the mulch somewhere, and then they also eat grass, and they
this is
just
true.
mow your yard for you.
So what's up with the coffee?
What's up with the coffee?
Yeah, there's coffee in like every
Have you ever
episode.
been somewhere really cold?
I have been somewhere really cold, actually.
And don't you just want a warm drink?
This is true.
Don't you just feel like you want to warm your hands and warm your insides and feel comfortable?
Yeah, I do. Jessica McAvoy. Oh my gosh, hi Jessica. Fanboy.
I thought you weren't supposed to say last names.
That's Jessica. That's the Jessica.
Well, there's another Jessica too, and she's very nice.
No, she's Jessica McAvoy.
I know. I'm just saying, like, you have to say thank you to everyone, not just fanboy.
Oh, sorry.
Don't eat that.
Oh, there's a second Jessica. Hi, Jessica B.
There you go. No last names now.
No last names now.
Sorry. Yeah. You're weird. You're so weird. There's a dog over your shoulder.
There is under the other shoulder. It's mirrored, so I'm like moving the wrong shoulder to get the dog view.
Yeah.
So what's up with the coffee though? Like, is this?
You just want some coffee when you're cold.
So this is just kind of like, but why do they talk about it a lot? Like, it's a very big talking point. Is this like the stuff in the movie?
When
The
you
Stuff?
ask someone to make you coffee or tea, do you just grunt?
No, that's true.
Does that mean make tea?
Oh my gosh, all the Jessicas rally to support. This is a good time. Yes, all the Jessicas. Thank you, Jessicas. All of you. The many Jessicas.
You're such a weirdo.
It's all right. It works, I think.
Okay, so we're at a lull, I think. We don't have a question, but I know that there's a question we get asked a lot, either in interviews or in some of the Q&As that we've done actually on the White Ball feed. And that's usually, do you know where the story is going? And does it have like a definitive end?
Sorry, I was excited. Mick Wingard is also.
Okay.
I'm trying not to fanboy as much. All right, keep going, as you were.
Weird. And we do know where the story is going. We have definitive story arcs, and we have an end in mind. This isn't, The White Vault isn't just a story that's gonna go on forever and never have like a definitive ending. We know what we're doing. We know where we're going. We know how this story plays out. And it will have no regard for any of your emotional attachments.
That's correct.
Keep that in mind.
Yes, that's a very good, well put together answer for it. We definitely aren't going to keep stringing it out for forever and ever. We have plans, and they're quite fun. All the Jessicas, but sung to the tune of All the Single Ladies, says Rob.
You don't have to read every comment that
Oh.
goes into the thing.
Okay,
Just the ones that have question marks.
gotcha. All right, I'm catching on. Well, I have another thing here today. A lot of people ask about sound effects and how those all come together. I basically use this one bag. It's my bag of tricks. This is a bag that I stole from Caitlin.
I've had this since I was a little girl. It actually has my initials on it. Right here. It's an old LL Bean bag, and it has my initials. And I've had it since I was like a wee little child.
This bag is like most of the sound effects for the White Vault that aren't coats. And it has zippers.
No, for that he uses my coats.
Well, mine is somewhere. It's in storage. We've got like a zipper. We've got like a Velcro sound. They do the little jostles. It's got, I filled it with like metal. So There's like a metal pipe in here. There's a cracked phone in here for tapping sounds. There's a belt for all the rope sounds, which this is not going to
You're
pick
not
up.
gonna pick that up.
It's a really cool, like, sort of
Travis's
crinkle.
bag of tricks.
And then on
Don't
the
eat the grass.
far side, I won't eat the grass, I promise. Somewhere in here, there's also a bunch of metal bits that I can't seem to find. Oh, there they are. They're hidden underneath things. There's keys. I have a bunch of little interlocking pieces that are very fun to clip and snap, and they make a lot of delightful noises. But the most of has this dog tongue that just keeps attacking
Okay,
me.
so let's see. Thank you to Mikey for saying that he loves the podcast, or she. I don't know. It's a picture of a dog. So how did you get started in audio, Travis? From Rob.
Oh, to me specifically, not you?
It says Travis at the end.
Oh, how did I get started in audio? So I was in a band for 10 years. It was a very interesting part of my life. And we decided we were going to make this music album. We all got together to make this music album. We got into the studio, and they quit after day one. Like, the whole band just broke apart. But I had this mostly completed album, and I had to finish it sort of myself without them and with only partially completed tracks. So I had this long summer project of trying to make an album from something incomplete. So it's like studio. I learned about multi-track recording, which is that everyone records one piece at a time. You don't record the drums and the guitar at the same time. You record them each individually. So I got really deep into multi-track recording and kind of trying to fake it to make it. I've later since like done like a fake live album with like added like cheering sounds from audience members and stuff. And I was kind of really big into later making songs that sort of feel like you're recording them maybe on like a boat or in a bar and adding like ambiances. And then she was like, hey, we should make a podcast. And I was like, yes, let's do this. That would be a lot of fun. And I was able to learn a lot more about sound effects and audio design. A friend of mine also was really big into Foley. Vincent Casaro, he did the autopsy scene for Independence Day, and he would always talk about like how that was done, and gave me some guidance on how to do Foley right. And having him as an early kind of inspiration and quasi-mentor, and then the music background, so I knew how to edit and use like a DAW, the stupidest DAW you can imagine. It's called Mixcraft. And they had a free trial that I'd extended multiple times by using different emails, and then I eventually bought it, because that's what you're supposed to do, support. And that basically got me into audio editing, and the more podcasts we made, the much better I've gotten since then.
Practice makes perfect, or
Yeah.
practice makes much better.
And I've learned some tricks of the trade since then for like footsteps and for other things as well. Moving away to like digital and
Hi, Sarah
like
Golding.
Hey, Sarah.
Oh, not to say last name. Hi, Sarah.
All the Sarahs.
All the Sarahs.
All the Sarahs. But just this one for today. But yeah, that's more or less the sort of whining thing, is just more experience, and then learning more about things like freesound.org has a bunch of sound effects that you can just download for free and use for free and make your own. And with a little bit of equalization and reverb, they can be something completely different. And even like doing them in reverse, suddenly this explosion sound is like, instead of, sorry, backwards. It's like a diminishing sound or whatever. I get too into it.
So next question is from Nadi. Nadi. I'm
Yes.
gonna go with Nadi.
Nadi
And
sounds good.
it says, what brought you two to work with each other?
That's a good question.
I don't know. He's just really annoying. Pastor's me. No. So
We were listening to
Okay.
NoSleep, and we were listening to
Yeah.
Sayer. That was another podcast we were listening to at the time. And I was working on a comic book, and it was taking a really long time. And she's like, we could probably make a podcast, and it would be a lot quicker than it takes to make a comic.
and you could reach more people.
Yeah, you
So
don't have to sell them in person to each person. They can just listen. And then, oh, that sounds kind of fun. I think we would write one, and we were like, all right, we're going to write one. So we sat down and we tried to write it together. We went to like the Eagle and Child in England. We were living in England at the time she was in college. We went to
was it university?
university, that's saying properly. We were trying to write together, and then the more it became apparent that I get distracted on tangents.
He's
And
such an annoying person to try and write with. Oh my god.
the stuff that I would write wasn't necessarily even as good because I'm pretty good at like stupid comedy. I'm very good at stupid comedy, but when it comes to like serious stuff, like suddenly all the characters have puns, and like even last night we were trying to do like adverts, just like what could we do with this advert, and then I kept coming up with puns, and so we discovered pretty quickly that she is the writer of the two of us. But
we would sit down and we would write something together, and then I would just delete everything that he wrote.
that was exactly it. But we got to a point where we kind of figured out, okay, we're gonna make a podcast, and
It's okay. Your talents lie elsewhere.
that's exactly
Yeah.
these good looks and stuff, and
Sure.
that's what we wound up doing, and I think we did okay.
Yeah, that's how we ended up working together on the podcast. But yeah, I mean, we know each other because we're married.
Yeah, we are married. That is full disclosure.
Full disclosure.
Surprise.
Yeah. Don't know how that happened. I mean, look at it.
I think I know how it happened. Got married.
But yeah, we've worked together on projects in the past, and this was like, okay, let's do a podcast. And since then, we've just been working on it more and more and more. So, yeah.
Yes.
You love puns, and puns are appropriate for certain sections and certain characters when you are spicing up like horrific situations where somebody has a coping mechanism that they use comedy, but everything that came out of his character's mouth was just like
Pun.
puns.
Yeah.
Just like one pun followed by a response pun by another pun. Oh god.
And then sometimes they had to rhyme in iambic pentameter. But what was your experience like with the NoSleep Live?
Is that a question
It is.
from you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Terrifying. Terrifying.
Somewhere David Cummings is crying.
Why is he crying? Oh, because of the puns? Okay.
He's bracing himself for tomorrow's episode.
No, I was terrified because I wrote the script for the live show pretty much as soon as we knew we were going to be doing it. I was like, this is my 100% the project I have to finish pronto because I have to have the script completed, edited, redone, fixed everything, and sent off to the actors so that they have time to read through everything and learn the lines. They were allowed to have scripts on stage, but still, like, you want them to have familiarity. You don't want to be a dick who's like, get on stage, here's your script, haha.
They had to have an edited version of the whole like entire show sent to them without their parts in it, and with one within, one without, so they could practice.
Yeah.
To like, they could listen to it and talk to their recordings. And none of them have done live shows before. I don't think so. Maybe Tanya might have.
But I was terrified. Well, I was terrified because when you write a podcast, you don't sit down with someone when they're listening to your show. When people listen to a podcast is very individual, so they can do it while they're cooking, while they're driving, while they're running. Like, you're not there with them. The fact that I was in the building,
She was dying.
when a bunch of people were hearing something I had written be performed live, I was like a chihuahua, like where they never stop shaking.
She thought like that the audience would just physically be so upset and then just carry her out and throw her out of the venue physically.
I know.
My terror was actually slightly different. So doing live sound effects for the show and also acting, my first experience acting on stage and actually saying words. But we had this, it's like an iPad, and you basically push a button and it does some of the sound effects that are pre-recorded. And then there's some sound effects that I have to actually do live, like some impact sounds and some motion sounds and things like that. But the problem was the keyboard we had, the little iPad, had glitched about 2 days before the show. So if it went to like, the orientation went from like landscape to portrait or the other way around, it would suddenly delete all of my presets and I would have to restart, and it's about a 10-minute process, and it's really easy to screw up if you try and rush it.
No, that was terrifying too. There were a lot of things that could have gone wrong, so I was
And if I pushed the wrong
terrified.
button, also I got penguin sounds. So
because you decided to put them there.
I did put penguin sounds in there. It was in my sound check tone. It was my room tone. It's just penguins, because it's the Antarctic and we're the Arctic, and it's sort of like the opposite. Anyway, so it's really
He's
spooky.
I could make a mistake and make penguin noises. It's like, only because you put penguin noises in there.
But like prior to the show, making sure that it didn't turn off because it goes into screensaver mode, that triggers the deletion also, and working with very fidgety technology. It was kind of
But
fun, terrifying.
I want to clarify. I wasn't terrified because I thought anybody was going to make a mistake. I 100% believed in the talent of the people that we had on stage. I was terrified for myself. I have more of a self-doubt. I didn't have doubt for other people. It was all about like being a writer and being really like scared about putting yourself out there.
See, ignoring Tanya, I had a lot of doubt because when we got on stage, the lights on the stage suddenly made the scripts red and blue, and like it was really hard to read, and none of us were off script. So it was like we're looking at these scripts, and then suddenly you can't read your script. You're like, oh no. So I was a little scared for the other people involved, and also that I could try to read my own like little pencil notes because the pencil that I'd used just erased the minute the light hit it. And I had to like redo everything in pen. I was like, no. It was a lot of fun. It was a great experience. And,
by the end of it,
super
I was
grateful
like
to have done it.
So happy, and we had such a wonderful time, and I got to meet everybody, and it was just amazing. But during the actual show itself, I was a wreck.
And then we got really good seats for the NoSleep show. That was awesome, and they were fabulous.
So we have a question from Jessica, and it says, Caitlin, so this one's for me. Your name's Caitlin. As a writer, have you ever found yourself stuck with how to get where the story where the story is to where it's headed or supposed to end up? Okay.
Directing your story.
So yes, of course. So I had the end in mind for the White Vault, or I have it in mind, and I had to fill in the sections in between.
Yeah.
And that's the same for a lot of stories. Like I know where I want it to go. I know how it starts.
Has it changed? I think you changed the ending like once or twice. Not the actual ending, but there's like some really big quasi endings.
I mean, some things like the setup was the same, but the outcome was going to be different at some point. But now it's something else. So now I know where we're going. But absolutely not knowing the middle of your adventure is part of the writing process. You just create your skeleton, and then you
have you gotten stuck? Have you gotten stuck during the middle writing process of like, okay, well, I know how the heck are they going to get there? That's
well, yeah, but then you just have to write. You have to
so it's like a
have
challenge.
That creative, go forth and face the creative challenge of how do I bridge these two pieces of my story together? How would you end up there? How would your people end up there? And that's a problem we will face, that I have faced. And as the White Vault continues, for as far as it is going to continue, you will see like, oh man, I don't know, they did, maybe I did a horrible job, maybe I did a good job getting them from where they are or where it is to where it will be. And you have to think about it. And I know that's a horrible answer, but it all has to do.
Oh my god, our dog is upside down, like his teeth are like out like that, and he's like chewing. It's indescribably awful. I'm sure there's blood everywhere.
What? No, it's adorable.
It's adorably awful.
But no, I mean, there's always going to be places you get stuck as a writer, and one of the things I definitely say is there's two ways to do it. You either pour yourself a cup of tea or coffee and power through it, or
dramatic pause.
Hello. Or you put the project aside for a little bit and you work on something else, because when you're not thinking about the story that you're worried about, your mind is just probably going to give you the answer. It's like when you're not looking for something, suddenly you find the thing that you lost. So that's a really bad answer. I'm sorry.
I would say that as on the editor's side, she does get stuck a few times. Like she had an interesting plot point that we just totally ditched. That we've had to do that a couple of times because they just don't make sense. Like it makes sense in the moment, but then you go back and you're like, oh, the ending no longer makes sense. So we need to change that. So we will go back and change things. She does the work. I just kind of tell her what to do. Sort of like her with me on the editing side. She's like, this sounds awful. Change this. Okay. This brutal honesty has been beneficial for us. If you're ever in Central California, come to improv with us. We embrace puns to the fullest.
But the question from Rob is,
Thank you.
what are each of your experiences with stage performances before the No Sleep live show? His answer is going to be longer. So I'm just going to say I gave a few academic presentations, but I'd never really been on a stage. That's it.
I did a TEDx
And
talk.
honestly, I wasn't really on the stage for the live performance. I just went up at the end to like say, written by Caitlin Statz, and then I did a bow, and then I left.
I did live music for 10 years and performed and toured the East Coast and Europe and the UK and stuff.
Jumped on tables.
Crowd
Surf.
Crowd surfing was a lot. I missed that. And playing
Ew.
accordion. It's fun. When you
No.
have an accordion, you're playing
Bunch of
accordion.
strangers touching you.
Well, they don't touch my butt or anything. It's not awkward. It's just, being held up in the air and suspended, and that feeling that you could fall at any moment, and it would be very
And
unpleasant.
break your skull, and suddenly I'm a widow.
That'd be unfortunate, but very comedic way to die.
No,
crowd surf.
no, it's a comedic way to die.
Yeah. But I've done that. I did a TEDx talk, and then during the TED talk, we had to do a live performance as well, and that was the most awkward thing ever because no one applauds, no one cheers, and the volume is softer than your talking voice. So you're playing music and you're rocking out as if it's really loud, but it's very, very quiet. And I've also done a couple puppet shows.
I've watched the YouTube recording of your TED thing, and
it was so awkward.
It's just like I just left.
Yeah, just click away. Don't look at that. But the other thing was we did a puppet show. It was a lot of fun for some kids, and it's easier being behind the stage and you push one button and the entire show just goes, and you just hold the puppets, and that's was a little bit easier than actually trying to make the sound effects live and have the actors live. That's write a crowd surfing horror was a suggestion from Sarah. I'm up into that. Another question. Have you written anything that has not been something you've produced?
Oh yeah.
The question was so boring, she just yawned.
Sorry. Sometimes I yawn when I get hungry, and it's about our lunchtime.
Oh no, she's going to get hangry.
So yeah, I've written some stories that other people have produced. I have one story that was on the Creepy podcast. I'm thinking, and when I think, I don't really stare. I just like stare.
So which one was on the Creepy? How would we find you on the Creepy podcast? And Creepy is a great podcast by John Grills. John Grills Creepy podcast.
Sorry, you like stumbled over some of your words.
It's wonderful. That was under the 31 Days of Horror for last year.
Yep,
and it was position available or something.
Yep, it was position available.
Yeah.
And you can look it up on their website, and it was really fun to write it. And then John is such a great guy, so it was a good experience. And we've also done a few like single one-offs. I wrote a comedy horror for the audio drama production podcast competition that was that selling a haunted mansion.
Yes.
And
Selling Ledford Manor.
Yeah, it was called Selling Ledford Manor Thunder. And that was produced by other people, and it was voiced by some amazing people who I just was like super excited. I was like, yes, your voice saying my words sounds perfect. I'll write something great.
It's surreal every time that happens, honestly. Like we had, we're like, oh, David Alt might read this character for The White Vault, and then suddenly it's like he sends you the lines back, and you're like, oh, it's really him. This is amazing. The words are alive. Now it's not just, mechanic or computer guy. It's, the words. David. So,
yeah.
It's impressive and fun.
Yeah, and then
he is Q&Aing next week, by the way.
He is. And he is amazing. He's such a nice guy. Seriously.
He's fabulous.
First time we ever met David and Peter, we were seeing them
and Cummings as well.
Yeah, we were seeing them at a live show here in the Pacific Northwest, and they walked up, and Travis is face blind, so he can't see people's faces, and he can't see them. He just can't remember them. So these people walked up and they like started being really nice to Travis, and Travis had no idea who these people who were talking to him were. And then Peter walked up, because David came up to you first, and then Peter walked up, and when Peter walked up, like he recognized his voice, and then I was like, that's Peter and that's David. And then Travis was like, oh.
Yeah.
And that was pretty funny. And oh my god, just like the most amazing people. And David went out and got boba tea, and I was super jealous. And apparently David was a fan of Liberty, and I did not know that. And
Yeah.
when he was talking about it, and I was just sitting there in the audience as like a normal audience member, and he started saying something about Liberty, and I was just like,
we were both very taken aback and like, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
yeah, just again, like, you guys are part of
guys.
a great community here. The No Sleep community is wonderful.
Yeah, it's the sleepless. You'd think we'd be horrible people, but we're not. The ones we've met have been.
Just wait till I'm hungry.
Well, yeah, of course. There are qualifiers, but if they're yes, sleepless is wonderful.
Yeah, throw some more questions at us, guys.
We will take all the questions. John is awesome. Yeah, we do like John. John is pretty fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever end up voicing one of the people in my stories or a narrator or something, that would be real cool. I don't know. Because we've moved recently, my schedule for work has been bonkers.
Yeah, there was a question actually earlier there was. I read it, but I didn't see it in our list. It was about the move and how we moved or why we moved or all that stuff. We moved from Florida to Portland, Oregon.
So we
like
live in Portland
3,000 miles.
We drove across the country. We released a little video when we were in the Badlands, like showcasing the American Badlands, because we really enjoy creating international stories.
That's why there's not a whole lot of American roles.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But there's also a lot of really wonderful things here in the US.
We saw the Badlands.
The Badlands were gorgeous. Driving through the mountains in Montana and Idaho was amazing. Waking up to see the sunrise in like the flat desert like plains of the like North Dakotas and stuff was just like so cool. We took too many pictures of our dog.
we did, and they're all wonderful. But it was a great trip. But we've moved to a place more fitting of who we are. We kind of like colder weather, and
I love colder weather. I did not like living in Florida.
We're a little bit European in that we appreciate walking places. So in Florida, you can't really do that because it's triple digits and you're kind of melting places as you kind of leave your house.
And we get to hike here, and there's so many more people here who are our age that we can meet and hang out with and be friends with. Where we happen to live was kind of like you're either a college kid, like going to one of the two colleges, but as soon as you graduate, you can't afford to live in the town because it's a retirement town. Like,
it's for rich people.
Lots of money who want to retire move to that town. So we were kind of stuck in a limbo space.
With no friends.
The only time we ever got to have board game nights was when our friends came back to visit their parents.
That is very true. But that's kind of our escape route. So we made it out, and we are now happily in the Pacific Northwest, which is delightfully creepy. And
it's wonderful here. There is a Lovecraft bar, and we are going one day.
I didn't know there's really.
Yeah, we passed it on the way to the tile store.
We should have skipped out on tiles and gone.
It was not open when we drove by.
Opens
it's like a bar.
Opens at midnight or something. But yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
So Rob asks, speaking of, how do you get your character profiles? What does a character profile mean?
So,
in this context, Rob, explain what you mean by a character profile.
And we'll just assume what it means in the meantime. So my assumption of what a character profile would be like, okay, you've written a general idea for a character. How are you going to kind of like figure out how you're going to cast it, or like who is the character? Okay, you've got mechanic.
So it's just a very confusing question unless you know the definition.
You have this mechanic, and this mechanic is doing stuff in the White Vault. How are you going to cast the mechanic? You know the mechanic is male because the mechanic happens to have a love interest in the story. And now how are you quantifying this character?
Well, that's
more?
A bad representation because I really knew I wanted Peter to be.
That's true. Okay, let's say for somebody else. A certain geologist.
I have well, I knew what I wanted the characters to be. I knew where I wanted them to be from. Certain parts are very important to the story, even if it's not clear right now. How did you get? Never mind. But I just so for some of the characters, but only loosely, I based it off of some of the classes I had when I was at university, and my classes were filled with just international students from all over the world, everybody who was passionate but had different lives from different parts of the world, spoke different languages, and still wanted to work together to find the solutions to our problems in that course. So, and it's memorable because of having that difference. And I knew that I wanted to showcase that there's talent and drive and stories that can be told without the just blanket of 100% American actors or 100% British and American actors or 100% British. Like having that difference really meant a lot to me. And story wise, some of the places that people are from, some of their backgrounds are important, not only to the story, but they're of course important to who the characters are and how I write them and how they interact with other people. So it's just this might be very cocky to say, it's just good writing.
We'll take it. Another question: how do you make them human? Because that was the actual question. Except Travis gets me.
Travis gets me.
Says Rob. But how do you make them human? The characters, as you develop them, you've explained how you make them who they are, but how do you make them breathe? Before we get the actor or actress.
You know how some people in your life, you love them but they suck.
Yeah.
Everybody's like that.
Okay.
You love them but they suck. Like like, okay, this one character is like, oh man, I love that she does this, and I love that she acts this way, and I love that she's strong, but man, she really sucks at this, or she has some really big character flaws, or just everybody in the world is like that. You love somebody, or there's somebody that you're like, oh, they're my friend, but they're really bad at this one thing, or oh, they're my friend, but I wouldn't call them in this situation, because everybody is just like you said, they're human. Nobody's gonna be the perfect Mary Sue or whatever.
Marty Stu.
What?
There's Mary Sue and Marty Stu. They're both interchangeable, but it's for the genders.
Okay.
Just go on. I'm sorry, I was excited. I wanted to contribute something.
So you just have to remember that everyone's flawed. Even if I love a character, because I have some characters who are my favorite characters, just because when I write them, I enjoy writing them more. And even sometimes I'm like, man, this puts this character in such a bad light. It doesn't matter if I like them or not, if that's the way that their character would act, if that's their flaw that makes me love them and hate them at the same time.
So you would say, like, understanding who they are and being able to think about who they are as if they were kind of like a friend helps you develop them as a character. Would that be accurate?
Sure.
Okay. That's good. Also, someone earlier had asked, where can you find Ledford Manor? Ledford Manor is available on our Patreon. Because we're not promoting too much, but like we have a Patreon. It helps us do what we do. If we are able to hit a certain goal this month, we have unique patches that I wanted to mention also. Anybody who's a patron at the $5 level or more, we've got a unique patch for you. They're going to be awesome, and it's for the first 2 weeks, 2 episodes released to the White Fault. I'm super excited about them.
Of season 2.
Of season 2.
But stop with the advertising.
That's it. And then it's also available actually on our normal feed as well. Under the episode, we interviewed Peter, and then we also did a QA thing on our feed. And at the end of the QA is selling Ledford Manor. Go.
So Nady asks, will you interview the other actors too? So we've done an interview with Peter, like we just said.
A lot of fun. That was a fun one.
Can I have more of the water?
Yes. We've also done an interview. We were in Iceland, and Eyþór lives in Iceland, and we spoke with him, and he had us over at his flat in Iceland, which was actually next to the hotel that we would have stayed at. Ironically, like across the street, and it was wonderful hanging out with him. And we're like, you know what, we should record a thing, and we recorded a thing, and we actually read a really stupid we all tried to be different characters in the White Vault in a script that I put together, which was full of puns and ice cream. Oh gosh. Oh, the interview is over.
So it just has to do with we would of course love to do interviews, but it has to do with getting things to line up. Because again, like if we went to Germany, then
that'd be
it'd
awesome.
be easier to interview Cassie, who plays Dr. Karina Schumacher-Weiss.
And Cassie's hilarious.
Cassie's hilarious.
That'd be a wonderful.
And then, of course, there's the wonderful Lani, who plays Dr. Rosa de la Torre. And she's a friend of ours. She's such a wonderful human being. It's all just timing, really. Getting things to work out can be really difficult. It just being in Iceland, and
she's always working for like Nintendo and stuff too, and
yeah.
she's like, oh, sorry, I can't talk right now. I'm about to go and record some characters
she's
for
a
Blizzard.
Busy lady.
We're doing some Blizzard entertainment stuff. No big deal.
She's a busy lady. So it's just timing. So we'll try to fit them in if we can, but I can't make any promises, even though they are wonderful people, and I'm sure that they would be really fun interviews.
What other than Ski Six frightened you? Because Ski Six, I found these little cards for a board game about a bunny rabbit in our, well, ripping out some floorboards, and someone actually made a NoSleep story about it. It's kind of awesome. It was really awesome, actually. But Ski Six are the creatures from this board game. They look kind of like crows, but like 10 times more terrifying. And yeah, so what scares you, Caitlin?
Where the sharks live.
Water.
I hate the ocean so much. I didn't used to, but
It's
then
gotten worse.
you know.
You won't even watch like the movie. I wanted to watch like 16 Meters Down or whatever.
It's like 47 or something.
I want to watch it.
I don't like
So good.
deep water and the ocean. And I didn't used to. I used to be perfectly fine. I got like a sailing license when I was younger, and I could sail small ships. And
can I mention water in other places as well is
no.
also not good for her.
But
like
no,
toilets is okay, but not like
I just
large
don't.
water.
I know too much
about water.
So I just don't. I tend to avoid the ocean.
I used to be terrified of
Don't
spiders,
eat that.
but
I
now
don't
that
know
I'm
what it is, but don't eat it.
now that I'm in Portland and like they're not like black widows or brown recluses, I'm not scared of spiders anymore.
There's some really cute spiders here.
I've gone
Like
from like
so fuzzy.
really scared of spiders to like, oh, let me help you, little friend. I will get you outside so you can eat more bugs. But I used to be really scared of them. Now I'd say my biggest fear is probably heights. I don't do so good about heights. It's not like I'm actively afraid.
I'm usually the one that will go up on the ladders in the house.
I can do ladders. My legs just get shaky.
You make it's too hard to get you on a ladder.
I'll do it. I don't even dislike it. I just, for some, my body doesn't like heights, and it's terrified of heights. And I think my actual fear is Alzheimer's or like memory loss or things of that nature.
Everybody has that fear.
But it's like an extreme one for me. And because I have face blindness and I can't recognize people. So I've got like two sort of fears that sort of line up. One is memory loss, because I can't remember things that are visual anyway. But if I forget other things, that'd be terrifying. And the thing number two would be like, certain stories in NoSleep do a very great job of this. And it's, you think you know a character, and then that character isn't who you thought they were. Like, there was a movie we saw that I don't want to spoil it, but there were...
Well, again, that has to do with not being able to recognize faces, because he'll have conversations with people and he won't remember who they are, even though he probably should.
I don't know who they are at all when I'm talking to them until they give me a trigger of some kind that indicates who they are. But I can't tell who they are visually most of the time. It's like, so the idea that someone would betray that trust, like, you know, doppelgangers, that really genuinely terrifies me. And because it's just so easy for people to do that with me in real life. You write characters the way I play them in RPGs. Oh, okay, cool. So besides D&D, what are your favorite RPGs to play?
I
Besides
honestly only
5th edition
play
Dungeons
5th edition D&D now, because
you sound like an advert.
I've played Pathfinder, and it was a pain in the butt, and I will never go back. I'll never go back. Never go back.
I tried playing a PC game with the Pathfinder rules, and I just gave up. It's like, no, I don't want to have to multiclass, and I have to multiclass.
And then I've played several different editions of Dungeons and Dragons, but the 5th edition is so much easier, and I can teach it to people. So I've been able to introduce players to D&D with 5th edition, and having that lower barrier to coming into the nerdy realm. Just really makes it feel like a more lovable game. And yeah, I freaking love D&D.
Yeah, I'm the same way. D&D 5e. I've done everything from quasi second ed to present, and I've played GURPS and Hero Clicks. I've played a bunch of them, but I think we don't have a lot of free time because we're always podcasting and we don't have very many friends. But we didn't have very many friends. We kind of have some now. It's crazy. But I would say our limited time we have, we're either playing video games on the PC or something like
Well,
Pillars
there's
of Eternity.
also yeah, like RPG video games is a different thing.
Actually, no, there's no role playing in the Betrayal at the House on the Haunted Hill
no
board game. Doesn't quite count.
This is big.
It's board games.
All right, next up. What inspired the White Vault? I met someone who writes awesome AD from Iceland.
But what inspired the White Vault?
That there are some great drama in Iceland.
One question at a time.
Iceland did inspire the White Vault. Our first trip to Iceland, I came out of it with
a book idea.
Million ideas. And I was like, I think I can write an audio drama about this. I think I can do it like this. I can do it in found footage format. I can incorporate this, because the fear and awe and beauty that comes from nature not caring about you and being in Iceland during the winter.
It was very intense winter. We almost missed places that we wanted to go to because it was just too cold and there was just too much snow covering the road.
I loved it.
We kind of risked our lives in a few parts, but it was a lot of fun. Worth the pictures. And then some Chinese tourists got stuck on an ice block because they wanted to see the seals and went too far. And it got separated from the land.
I loved it. Oh God.
I think we saw a flipped vehicle in the ice.
We saw a lot. And I would still go back like a million times. I love it there. I did not know that there was a lot of an audio drama scene in Iceland. We actually did talk about that with Ethor when we were doing his interview. And again, I don't speak Icelandic, so when we were asking him, is there Icelandic audio drama? Is that a thing? And he didn't know of any.
He didn't, and we put out a casting call at one point, and it wound up the person we talked to was a former friend of his. How do you know this guy? It's really funny.
It's a small country.
It is a small country.
And thank you for saying that Selling Lead for Manor was amazing. I had a hoot of a time writing it because it was my first trek out into horror comedy. So, all right.
I think that's
Travis will answer if they feel up to it after the Q&A. You don't have to end the feed right away. Just letting you know it's been an hour. Yes, awesome. It has been an hour.
Thank you, guys. It's been a fun hour.
Thank you. If you have any more quick questions,
we can answer
throw them up pronto.
Otherwise, we're going to take over the world.
We don't want to run over time if it feels inappropriate to do so.
Yes.
But we also don't want to stop anybody from asking a question that they might have.
And you can find us on thewhitevault.com. We have a lot of fun things there. If you go to whitevault.com, you'll get refrigerators.
So you have to have the.
It's very important. One is horrifying. One is refrigerating and refreshing. So we hope to see you guys soon. We hope you enjoy our second season of The White Vault. It's going to be terrifying. And thank you guys so much for your delightful questions.
Would you write a horror D&D module?
Actually, I've already done it. It's called Domain of the Nameless God. It's going to be on our Patreon in a couple days. I'm writing a few more descriptive texts, but it'll be up by the 2nd, October 2nd.
So can I say what it is?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so we played D&D.
David Alt asked to play D&D.
With the people from the White Vault, and we recorded it, and that is going to be the Dark Dice D&D podcast that Travis and I are releasing under Fool and Scholar. And in addition to that, Travis is painstakingly trying to make it into a module that people can play horror in D&D and have that feeling. And it's hard work, but it's going well. And we've have a little bit of experience creating these modules, so we're working on it.
Yes, yeah, it'll be a lot of fun, and you guys can play it, and your players will go insane, and beyond losing their minds, they will never trust you again. Oh God, dog! Okay. Well, hope you enjoy the show. If you haven't heard it before, we are again the White Vault.
Oh wait, it says last question from Rob. What's for lunch, and do you have a PO box for gifts yet? We don't have a PO box for gifts.
Thank you for
But
thinking of us.
That's an interesting thing that we had not thought about.
Went British there for a second.
Sorry. And no, we don't have that. But for lunch, I think it's going to be some type of sandwich.
Maybe involving hummus. That'd be good.
Hummusy sort of sandwich.
It'd be very nice, delightful. And then we'll leave you guys frozen and in terror, hopefully.
Right.
And we'll see you guys on the other side of the internet.
Stay warm.
And then I push the end button.